And you mentioned, earlier that you wanted to stay in the States. How did that mindset change? Because you moved back and you were actually in Singapore as well for a time.
Actually, and I think you hit the nail on the head, Ling, because you see, I spent 2 years, 1.5, 2 years in New York after my university. And then I moved to Dubai. And then I moved to Singapore. Then I moved to Delhi and then to Nepal. So you see, after having spent a lot of time in all of these places, I mean, think of it this way. 2008, I started spending a lot of time. In 2006-07, I was between Dubai and New York or America, right? And we had already closed the hotel. But Dubai at that time was at its all-time peak. I mean, Dubai was going through the roof when it comes to opportunities. Then the subprime crisis happened in America. So my confidence in the market in America started shrinking, while my confidence in the Middle East market, and then I moved to Singapore. And I saw the capital market, because the first market that had gone under, let's say, was affected in the world was Singapore. And the first market to come out of that crisis was Singapore also. So it also showed me the resilience of Southeast Asia, especially Singapore. And I spent time in Singapore and my mind started changing more and more about Southeast Asia and the opportunities in Middle East, Africa, Indian subcontinent, and Asia and Southeast Asia. And then we never looked back. And then we started investing in companies and investing in deals one after the other. I'll tell you, Ling, that when I first came into the business, we had about 4 hotels in 2006 when I came into the business full time. I mean, after a lot of effort and guidance and in line with my father's vision, today we are at 150 hotels with almost 8,000 keys in 12 countries. So obviously, something we have done right, I would say. I would hope to say we've grown in our own humble way, but I think we've grown at the pace that we want to. And mostly in these geographies or continents that I mentioned. We still have only 1 hotel in America. Otherwise, if our focus was there, we would have expanded to many more.
Right from the very start, you knew you wanted to have a global focus. And I understand that, at least for Nepalis, there is also a dual purpose for you being in Singapore as well, because the Nepali law states that you can't invest freely outside of the country. But then you found a way around it. How does it work?
Well, actually, my father, and this is what vision and dream comes from. A dream is only a dream so long as there is a vision backed by the willingness and the capacity to execute. Me and my brother, my Varun and myself, are both non-resident Nepalis. And my father was a non-resident Nepali for the longest time. And he started the company back in 1993 outside of Nepal. And we started making investments in these companies at that point in time. And then we were always non-resident and we continue to maintain that status. And we continue to live outside of Nepal as well. And we have always grown all over the world. I mean, me and Varun are the ones who are, through being a non-resident Nepali, are the ones running the investments outside.
And another very large proponent of CG hospitality is your partnership with Taj Group. When that first happened, it was a surprise to many in Kathmandu. So how did it all start?
Oh, absolutely. Like that was I would say that was the breakthrough. Yes, that was the breakthrough for us in our hospitality, entry into the hospitality vertical. One can just imagine that a group like IHCL, which owns the Taj brands and which is owned by IHCL, is an enterprise of the Tatas. I mean, you can only imagine a behemoth like the Tata Group is coming and investing in hotels from an individual in Nepal. Out of someone all over the world, they come and invest with someone in Nepal. There must be something about it, right? And I think it had got to do with the vision of my father, that I think they were aligned in doing this together. And that was when Sri Lanka and Maldives was also going through a very tough time. And that is when Sri Lanka was going through its worst time, when it was the insurgencies. Now, people would look at my father and would say, oh, this guy has gone crazy. I mean, he wants to go into a country which is at war. I mean, in those days, making that investment was huge. It was pretty much like taking out everything from your savings account and putting it into one basket, you know. But, you know, this comes into another fundamental point, which was once a statement, you know, an interview was done with Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew was once asked which other country do you see in Southeast Asia and this part of the world, Indian subcontinent, which could become the next Singapore? And he said Sri Lanka. He said the fundamentals of that countries are right. It is a peninsula in the middle of the Indian Ocean and it is only going to do well. I think that message really resonated with my father. And he made a plunge into that business. And look where those properties are today. I mean, those are some of the most iconic hotels in the Taj system today, including in the world. And we started with those 3 hotels. And I will always say this in every forum that we have a lot to thank Taj, and we are grateful to IHCL to have taught us the ropes of hospitality. I mean, they are an incredible company, and their value system, their just ethics and morals, the way they do business is phenomenal. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't have created the company that they did. And we are so proud to be in partnership with them, And we also continue to be one of the largest partners as well in the system today.
What do you think are the signature ways in which they do business that allow them to have grown to such an extent?
Well, I think it's similar. I think in terms of our way of thinking of how we evaluate deals, how we look at the fundamentals of the deal, how it is a strategic fit, and how it fits into the larger picture of the growth strategy itself. I think that's how fundamentally Taj has grown as well. They capitalize on their core market, which is India. You see what they have done, which is very smart, and that's how it should be. They have a captive market of 1.5 billion people, and they are the largest company in India. And they have, I believe, over 200 assets now, with majority of these in India itself. I mean, they have a captive market, and keep in mind, the largest travelers in the world today are Indians and Chinese. So wherever Indian market goes, they set up their operations in those countries, and they're successful in doing that. I mean, that's what we are trying to aspire to, not saying that Nepal is in any way comparable in terms of the catchment market, but Nepal has a lot to do with the Chinese and Indian market as well. And what we have done from our growth strategy, Ling, is that we've always entered frontier as well as emerging markets. Yes, we have made investments in some of the markets which are more strategic, like New York. It was a strategic investment, and it was a very good investment because the perception in the people was exactly like you are saying it yourself, that we are a hotel company based out of Nepal, but has made investments in Sri Lanka and Maldives. We are a hotel company out of Nepal and is the only company that is a hotel in New York. So you see, this has helped in the yesteryears of our hospitality foundation and the perception. And I think that's what Taj has managed to do as well very well. And now you see Taj all over the world. They're also in 12 countries, while we are also in 12 countries, by the way. Yes, they're about 15, 20,000 keys, no doubt. And their assets are world-class. And I have the highest admiration for that company and aspiration, one in a way one would like to call it. But yes, so I believe we both are quite similar when it comes to our way of thinking and undertaking business.
So was what you were bringing at the time when you were forging this partnership with Taj, the fact that you could help them expand beyond their Indian market, where I believe they were focused on very much at the time?
You see, at that point in time, IHCL owns the Taj brand. IHCL only had a few properties outside of India. And I believe they had one in London, they had a few in Sri Lanka and few in Maldives, if I'm not mistaken. And so Taj had not grown too much out of these markets. So yes, you're absolutely right that the vision there was to come in and grow in the markets that Taj is already not in. And that's what we have done. We have grown with Taj. We've been with them for the past 20 years. We have assets with them in India, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, in Dubai, in Phuket. So we have developed a circuit with them in these markets, and we continue to look for opportunities.
Another one of the interesting opportunities that you also went into was with the CEO of Conservation Corporation of Africa. How did that happen? Because it's so rare to see someone also getting into managing jungle lodges.
Well, Steve, unfortunately, is no more, but his family was the one who started the CC Africa. Now it is called And Beyond. And Beyond is probably one of the largest gaming companies in the world. And they have some fantastic and amazing lodges all over the world. And they also have, by the way, a travel business. And the travel business is called And Beyond. And we are partners with And Beyond, their inbound travel company in India, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. And that continues to be a big business. But my father was good friends with Steve and Nikki. They were the power couple from SCC Africa at that point in time. And the desire was because India was just ready to blow up, and so much of culture, so much of opportunities, and so many places to see. So my father and then thought that this would be a very important segment of business for years to come. And that's when they decided to identify 4 locations in central India and Madhya Pradesh. And that's when it all started. And Taj decided to come together with us. So Taj, CC Africa, and us started this journey with the Taj Safari Lodges, which is very successful today. And we have the 5th one in Nepal in the Chitwan Wildlife Sanctuary.
And I think one of the unique things that Steve taught was that you are here to sell the experience, right? People who can afford it, they want the experience as opposed to anything else.
Absolutely. No, you're 100% correct. And I can tell you, Ling, that hospitality has moved from your regular generic bed and shower and all of these. These are important. But now you are not selling a bed. You are selling an experience altogether. And people are going to hotels and staying in hotels to have that experience, right from the time you book till the time you check out and thereafter as well.
Obviously, you've been collaborating with so many people. You must have thought, I want to start my own brand, which is Zinc. How did that whole idea come about? Why is it called Zinc?
About, I would say 10 years or I think 12 years, 10, 12 years back, after having been in the hospitality industry and learning the way hospitality works, we decided that we want to go down this journey of creating our brand. One thing I will tell you and everyone who's listening, that it's not that easy. Creating a brand is one of the most difficult things you can ever do. And that is the reason why you have brands like Marriott that have bought Starwood. You have brands like Accor that have bought Fairmont, Raffles, Movenpick. Because to create a brand is so difficult, you would rather invest and buy a company that already is well aware in the market. But having said that, not everyone has the access to capital. But if you are willing to create a brand, keep in mind that requirement to create a brand also requires a lot of capital. So if you are willing to be patient, if you are willing to be in it for the long run, it is something that you should do. But if not, then I would really advise you against that. And what we decided, we embarked on this journey. The idea was linked to create a brand like Virgin, meaning that you create one brand and that brand could be used for, let's say, clothing line, for an airline, for a vodka brand. So one brand itself, now you can debate whether the Zinc for all of these different segments, but we thought it was quite catchy at that point in time. And it still continues to be because we are growing with these brands itself, because we have merged these brands with Concept. And now Concept has the Fern brand, Beacon, and Zinc, and its offshoot brands that it is growing through this management company itself. So it continues to grow in its own humble and in its own organic way, so that all our past years of hard work and monetary investments doesn't go to waste.
What was it like trying to launch the Zinc brand? Was it Eric who had to leave and there was a huge stumbling block there?
Eric Levy, yes. So Eric had joined us to help us grow the brand itself. Yes, for one reason or the other, he had to move on. But I mean, we also obviously moved on. I'm still good friends with Eric. There is no doubt about it. I still respect his work. But then, like I said, that we shifted the brands to our own management company, which is Concept, CG Hotels and Resorts. And now that brand continues to grow through that business itself.
One of the things that you mentioned was also that you entered into Dubai and you were there very, very early on. I read from your father's book that he was initially very hesitant and he did not see the opportunity behind it at all. So how did that change come about? Because now you have done so many exciting things that are happening in that region.
Well, seeing is believing. I think my father went to Dubai in 2005 or 6. And when he went and saw, the time that he traveled before that was in 2003. At that point in time, Dubai was a desert. There was nothing there. And when he went in 2005 and 6 and he saw how this whole country is transformed and what the fundamentals of, His Highness the ruler has created, he immediately bought a house there itself and he moved one of his children to Dubai because the fundamentals again of that region was so good, It was seeing and believing what was on the ground that changed his entire fundamentals of that place.
What was the journey in going to your first venture, which is with Jebel Ali with Nakil?
Obviously, when you enter that market and the opportunities were with the real estate itself. The mindset was very different in Dubai at that point in time. It was the short-term mindset, meaning that you buy, you flip. You buy, you flip. So we had to change a little bit of our thinking there. And obviously Jumeirah, more than Jumeirah, sorry, it was Nakheel and Emaar. Those were the two developers led by the government of Dubai who were in the forefront of creating new projects. They were building projects like they were building hotcakes every day. Every day they would come up with a new idea and they were selling a dream, you know. And it was amazing that everyone was buying into this dream. And for Dubai, size does matter. And for Dubai, concepts do matter. They want to build bigger and better. They want to build something that is not even there anywhere in the world. I mean, how can you ever not buy into something like that? And when they are actually creating and building something that you can see. So we all bought into this dream. And I think they did a wonderful job, but they could have been a little bit more cautious. I mean, that is what happens when you're entering a system that is very new, still to such developments and to such advancements. I think they moved too fast, too quick, and they would have actually continued on that growth trajectory if it weren't for the subprime crisis, which was hardest hitting to the real estate sector. And that's what happened. But having said that, I think everyone becomes wiser. Everyone becomes more thorough and systematic. And I think you can see Dubai. I mean, it is one of the financial capitals of the world. So it has learned from what it had to learn. Dubai continues to take the forefront of business and real estate and hospitality.
In 2019, you entered into Taj Jumeirah Lake Towers. What was the thought process behind wanting to build your own hotel from the ground up?
We've been in Dubai for the past 15, 20 years, like I said. We were there even before 2005-06, before I moved in and my brother came in there because of our foods business, YY. We were there for so long. I would say it is the gateway between the East and the West. It's right in the center. And the whole world gets connected in the Middle East itself. And we were growing our operations there. And one of us was living there. So we thought that we must have a bigger footing in that market, must have a bigger investment in that market. And that's how the being of Taj Jumeirah Lakes Tower came into place. I mean, I remember I was the one who put the first foundation stone in that hotel. And Jumeirah Lakes Tower is literally like my own baby, like the Megali in Chitwan Safari Law Park. And I have been involved in that project for the past 8-9 years, right from the first brick itself and to what it is today. So it's a very special project for me. I think it's making a lot of marks and is really making a statement for itself in Dubai and the segment it is in.
Another big thing that you are doing as well is that you're a director of Prestellar Venture. How did the idea of starting your own fund come about?
It all started with my dad's visit to California, by the way. My father was there and he met a very interesting gentleman. I'm forgetting the name of the company, but pretty much the guru, you can say, of startups. I mean, he had done multiple startups. I mean, starting, buying, selling, getting them going, monetizing. And he was really, really intrigued by the unicorn investments that here we are spending years and years in turning around one investment. And here an idea that is the likes of your Facebook or the likes of your Google. I mean, these are companies that are not even making money today and are worth billions and billions and trillions of dollars. And there is no justification to it. I mean, these are all ideas. So that's when he started thinking that, I must, and a lot of these many Nepalese entrepreneurs were also writing to my father, tweeting to him and writing to him personally that why don't you start something like this? There are so many aspiring Nepalese entrepreneurs around the world. They want to do something. They are in other countries as well, apart from Nepal, where technology and access to capital as well as access to the startup ecosystem is much better. And that's when, my father tweeted. And he said that he wants to create this venture capital, which is going to be predominantly focusing on Nepalese, but also for other parties as well. Oh my gosh, when he made that tweet, he got thousands of people writing to him with ideas and opportunities. And that was the start. And we decided to start Prestellar Ventures with a partner here and with a partner in Singapore. We made already 3 investments, 2 in Singapore and 1 in India. And we decided to take it a little bit slow because of COVID and it's been really, really speculative, So we've decided to make it a little bit slow. We've invested in 4 actually. one more through our investment company called Torana with my local partner in Nepal, who are also partners with me in hotels, leading family here as well. So we have invested in these. We are continually looking at opportunities, but now our focus has more shifted towards venture capital investments into investments itself rather than startups only. It could be in projects, it could be in acquisition, it could be a stake in a business that we don't possibly know, which has clear, good fundamentals. So we are looking at investing still, but as venture capital investors, not into startups.
You mentioned some of the startups that you have already been involved in. I was looking into them and I was very intrigued that they were so different, that you have student housing, logistics, IoT. What were the things that you were looking for that stood out among these companies?
It's all disruption. We were partners with people who already knew this segment, knew this market. It was very new to me. It was very new to CG from that perspective. So for us, the fundamentals were very clear that we see a strong disruptor. We see a segment that is only going to grow up, and also the other parties that are involved in that venture already. And we did not want to be a very, very small investor in that startup. We wanted to have a little bit of a significant stake so that there is an upside and one could downsell as well through a higher valuation. It's all about exploring newer horizons of business, yet being careful in being able to recover your capital as one would balance the thinking of an entrepreneur with one who is a venture capitalist. The thinking of both are very different. Completely different. An entrepreneur thinks differently than a venture capitalist. Venture capitalist is willing to take the risk. Venture capitalist is willing to take a minority position. A venture capitalist is willing to go through with an idea. An entrepreneur will want much more tangible ways to convince oneself that this is the right investment. We had to do a lot of balancing between the two to come up with the right mix of investment as well.
Was it difficult for you to take on that VC hat, since it's so different from what you've been doing all this time?
Well, it was more easy for me, but it was very difficult for my father because you see, he comes from a very traditional way of investing, right? He comes from the position, as I mentioned, of seeing is believing. You're not seeing anything at all. It's all ideas that are evolving with technology, and me too, initially was the same thing. I didn't even understand. I mean, if you really ask me till today, I do know the fundamentals of IoT, but I really don't know the technicalities of it at all. So I was investing in the business. So you see, there are a lot of these technicalities, and I would never do it alone. I will definitely do it with someone who understands this space. And that's what we did.